So welcome everyone to this channel named Geeks for Geeks School, and today the project on which we are going to work upon is this beautiful web page which you're right now seeing on your respective devices. So it's a tab image gallery that we are going to design today. So there are three images which are visible to us right now getting reflected in the left side of this web page, and then there is a section I have defined right in the center, right, in which this here the photo will be displayed is getting reflected. Now how this tab image gallery works, let me show you that. So if suppose I'll hit this, image, so this is what is going to happen. It is going to open up in this section in a bigger window, right? Similarly, if I want to change this image, so I can hit this one for changing this existing image with this second one. So this is what you will get as an output. Fine. And if you want to select this third image, you can click on this, and this is going to get reflected in this middle section. So that's what a tab image gallery is. So we make use of this tab image gallery in order to give an appealing look to the websites. Okay, so if you will see the websites which are there on internet, there are number of websites you're going to come across where you will see the use of this beautiful tab image gallery. Let's now check out the HTML and CSS coding, with the help of which we can create this beautiful thing, and also how can we make it responsive with the help of simple JavaScript coding. Let's dive into the code.org platform and access the required environment. So we need to first sign in into the dashboard. So when you will hit that sign in button, automatically it will redirect you to this beautiful web page, and here you are required to input the login credentials with which you can access your respective dashboard on this platform. Once you're done with that, you're going to get redirected on this page. Now in order to access the web lab where you can define different HTML and CSS codes, you need to come over here right on the top and hit this create option. This is going to open up a cascading menu, and then you can visit this view all projects section. Come down, and here you will get to see this view full list option. Hit this one, and here you are going to find this web lab option getting reflected. Let's visit this web lab option and check out what all can we do over here for creating this beautiful tab image gallery. So right now the environment is getting loaded. Okay, now we can begin writing the code. So when you will come on this original web page, see right on the top we are able to see some text getting reflected in the title portion. How can we get this, how can we define a title for this web page? The way we are able to see a title, how to create a tab image gallery for this web page over here. So for doing this, we can come over here inside this head section, and we can make use of this title tag. Now in between, because title is again a container tag, so we need to define the endpoint also. Now whatever title you want to give to your web page, you can define it in between this title tags. So I would like to have this thing only, how to create a tab image gallery. how to create a tab image gallery. Let's now hit the share button and open this web page on a bigger window so as to check out whether we will get the required output or not. So let's see what is the title we are going to see right on the top in the title portion of the web page we are trying to access right now with the link I've pasted in the URL part of the browser. Do share and like this video so as to make it reach the maximum students possible, and thank you very much in advance for all your support and cooperation and whatever efforts you're making in promoting our channel. Thank you so very much. Okay, so we have this how to create a tab image gallery getting reflected right on the top. Fine, so this code is working perfectly fine. Let's now come inside this body and define the required HTML code for these components which we are able to see on this beautiful web page. So the first thing that is visible to us is this company's name. Then there is some text which is getting reflected right below this company's name, and then there is tab image gallery, right? So what we can do, we can make use of a separate division section for all these three components. So now in between this inside this division section, let's make use of this h1 tag for this heading geeks for geeks, right? And then we can close this header tag. Fine. Now after this, what we can do, we can for getting this a computer science photo for geeks on this stage area, we guys can make use of h4 tag. Why we are making use of h4 tag? Because the font size of this one is small, is very small as in comparison to the company's name which is getting reflected right on the top. So I'm copying it and pasting it in between this h4 tag, and that's how it is going to get reflected on the stage area. Similarly for this one, tab image gallery, we guys can make use of the paragraph tag. I think this is going to be a good choice for this third text. Yes, it is, right? And now when you'll come on this original web page, see here these three things are getting reflected right in the center. So how can we get all these three things which are getting reflected right now on the stage area? How can we shift them all in the center? So what we can do, we can make use of inline styling also. Now how to do inline styling? We guys can make use of this style attribute, and then we can make use of this text align property. Let's pass this value center, and now as you can see, everything has shifted in the center of the stage area. Now it is looking more beautiful as in comparison to the previous view. Okay, so we are good to go with this division section. Let's go back on this original web page and check out what else do we have. So now we have this column, okay, and then there is a section over here right next to this column, and then there is one section present right on the top in between this tab image gallery and this bigger image. So how can we define all these things? The first thing that I would like to do is let's have a division section with class name row, and then we are going to bifurcate this row into different columns. And once you're done with that, you can define the endpoint for this division section. Why? Because it's again a container element, right? Okay, just a second, I want to check something. Yes, everything is going fine. Now we can have one more division section. Let's have an ID for this division section with name geeks. Okay, and you can also style it up if you want with the help of the style attribute, the way we have done over here in for this division section, right? So I would like to define this margin left for this division section, and I would like to keep it, I think 150 pixels is a good option, right? As far as I know, I think this is going to give us the correct output. Now we have this thing, if you will refresh this page, this is what you're going to come across. So here initially, here the photo will be displayed. So this is a text which will be visible to the user, initially getting reflected in that main section. So what we can do in between this second division section, we guys can get this, here the photo will be displayed thing defined. Here the photo will be displayed. Okay, so we are done with defining the required code for this division section. Let's now go back on this original web page. So we have this, we have a there is a column that is there in the left side of this web page, in which we are able to see 3 different images, right? Now how can we get such kind of output? That's what we have to think and code for. So the best way is to have one more division section, and let's define a class also for this division section. So I would like to have this class with name column for this division section. Okay, so now what we are doing here, we are dividing this division section with class name row into different columns. Fine. So in this first one we have this, here the photo will be displayed. Then in this second one I am going to define the code for getting this first image reflected on the stage area. So we guys can make use of this img tag, right? And then for this source attribute, we can pass the link of the image we want to get on the stage area. So here are the links of 3 images that I will be using for creating this beautiful tab image gallery. This is the first image, sorry, this is a link of the first image. And then let's do some inline styling also for this one. So I would like it to cover the entire width of the web page. So that's what can help me in getting the desired result. So as you can see, the image is getting reflected over here. Now let's have an on click event also for this one. So this one I will be using for firing the JavaScript coding and linking the same with this image button through the help of this on click event. Okay, so I would like to link it with, let's define a function over here. Let's say gfg this. Okay, this is the function which will be called when I will be firing the JavaScript code on the browser window. Right, so I'm done with defining the required code for this first image, the required HTML code. Let's now copy this whole thing and place it over here. So now we are able to see the second image also, but I don't want to see this repeating. I would like to use some other image. Let's go with this one. Let's do one thing. I'm replacing this first image with the link that I just copied. Fine, and the second one is going to be this one only, the Perl tutorial. Okay, and then we can copy this whole thing and place it over here. Let's replace the link of the image that we would like to see getting reflected on the stage area. So this is the link of third image I'm pasting over here. So now this is what you will get to see as an output on this beautiful stage area. Right. So we are done with defining the required HTML code for this division section, the class for which is column, and in which there are three different images present over here. Right. Let's now create another column, another division section with the same class name column. So now this is going to be the third division section, which is there inside this division section with class name row. Okay, so we can define it over here, divisions class column, and then we can make use of this span tag. So if the user will hit this, what should happen if he clicks on this? So I would like to call this dot parent element, just a second, this dot parent element dot style dot display, and then we can pass this value none for this display property. So I am using this single inverted commas, right? Fine, and then we can close this span tag over here like this. I think this is perfectly fine. Let's now move on to this image tag img id. So this is the one which is going to help us in showing this image in an expanded way over here in this section. Okay, so id is going to be expand. Fine, and then we can define a style attribute. Let's style it internally. So I would like it to cover at least 70% of the total width of the entire web page. And then for this height, we can have 60% value, right? And then if you want to see it in a if you want to define some gap in between the image, in between this section over here and this tab image gallery, so you can make use of this margin top property and define a space of, let's say, 15 pixels. I think this is going to be a good option, right? Fine, so we are done with defining the required HTML code for this section. Fine, in which the final image is going to get reflected in an expanded manner. Okay, so we are done with this. Let's now close this division section. Okay, I think everything is good to go till now. So we are done with defining the required HTML code over here on this beautiful WebLab workspace. Now let's move on to this style.css file and eliminate everything whatever is there by default in this workspace for this file. Okay, and let's define the required HTML code, CSS code for styling up all the components that we have there on the stage area. So the first thing that I would like to style is the H1 selector. So I would like to have a color of green for this one. Fine, so this is what you're going to get as an output, right? So the color of this text has now changed to green. Earlier it was black, I think, right? So now it is green in color. Okay, then we can, and it's looking better than the one which is getting reflected right on the top over here on this page, right? Fine, now let's access the division section for which the class name is column, and I would like, whatever we have defined inside the division section with class name column, everything should float in the left side of the window. So that's how I can do it. With the help of this float and this value left, I can make everything float on the left side. Now why have I passed left over here? Because here all these three images are floating on the left side of this web page, right? Okay, then we can define some width also. Now they are covering around 25 to 30% of this entire web page. So what we can do, we can pass this value 25% for the width of these images. Now this is what you will get to see as an output. So now these three images have shifted to the left of this window, and they are covering around 25% of this entire space present on the stage area. Let's now do some padding also, so as to create some space in between these images and the surrounding. Sorry, not the surrounding, in between, inside the component, sorry. Okay, so I think 10 pixels is more than enough. Yes, so this is what you're going to get as the result. Okay, now let's move to the img tag. So that's how you can access all the img tags you have defined inside the division section for which the class name is column. So there are three img tags. Remember, we have defined over here in this HTML document. Let's now define the required CSS code in order to get the result which we are able to see, the kind of output we are able to see over here on this original web page. So when I'm bringing my cursor over any of these images, what is happening? So I'm able to see the cursor getting changed to somewhat like zoom in. It's a zoom in symbol icon which we are able to see right now. Okay, and how can we get this output? So what we can do, first of all, we need to change the opacity, right? Why I'm defining the opacity? Because when I'm bringing my cursor over these images, the opacity is increasing. See? Okay, so how can we get this kind of thing? We can pass this value 0.6, and then for changing the cursor, we can make use of this cursor name property, and let's pass zoom in for this property. Let's refresh the stage area and check out the output. So now, as you can see, the cursor has changed to a zoom in kind of structure, right? Okay, and then we can have some padding too. So I would like to have a padding of 5 pixels. I think this is going to be a good option. Great. Let's now define the required cascading style sheet code for getting this hover output. When I'm bringing my cursor over these images, they are coming forward. Now how can we get this kind of output? So for doing that, the first thing that we have to do is we need to access the image tag. So this is the code which we guys can make use of for accessing the image tags, and then we can define something for the hover property. So when the user will bring the cursor over any of these images, the first thing that I would like to do is I would like the opacity to change from 0.6. Initially it is 0.6. I would like it to change to 1, so the image will be more clear to the user now. And then we can make use of this transform property. This is again a very beautiful property with which you can scale down or scale up any image. So I would like to scale up this image with this factor 1.1, and let's do some transition also. So let's have a transition of 0.5 second. I think this much is fine. So now when you refresh the stage area and enlarge the stage area and bring your cursor over any of these three images, this is what you're going to get as an output. See, the size is increasing, as well as the opacity is changing from 0.6 to 1, so the images are getting more clearly visible, right? So that's what you will get to see as an output with the help of this code which we have defined just now over here in this cascading style sheet document. Okay, so we are done with customizing the view of this image tag. The only thing now which we are left with for this image tag is we haven't defined anything for this active part. So if any of the image tag is active, I would like its opacity to change from 0.6 to 1 permanently, right? Let me fire this JavaScript command over here in the console panel of this original web page that we're designing right now. And now if I will hit this image, so this is what you will get to see. Fine. So the opacity of the original image should be like this. Fine. Now let's define something for the box sizing. So I would like to have a border box for this box sizing, and if you want to have some background color, so you can define that too. Let's choose some attractive color for our web page. So I think crimson is going to be a good option. How about dark red? No, dark red is going to match with this first image, right? Let's select something which can match with the colors of these images. How about this gray? Let's check it out. What is the kind of output we are going to get now? Okay, so this is what you will get to see as an output. Now this is looking somewhat dull, right? I would like to select some bright color so as to make my website or web page I'm designing look more appealing. How about dark orange? Yeah, this is looking pretty cool. Let's go with this one. I think this one is perfectly fine, right? Okay, now let's come over here, and we defined an ID with name geeks for one of the division sections. I think, yeah, this is the one in which the photo will be displayed as present. Let's access the ID and customize the appearance of the text we have inside the division section for which the ID is this geeks. So I would like to define a position for the text first. So let's define an absolute position. If you want to shift it in the left side, you can make use of this left and define this 200 pixels. So now this is going to shift towards this side. So there will be a gap of 200 pixels in between this left side border of the web page and the starting of the text. Okay, if you want to shift it 400 pixels, I think this is also a good option. Yes, this is a better option, but I want to see it just below this tab image gallery. How about 300 pixels? I think this should give us the correct output. Okay, so here it is getting reflected. And how about if I'll change it to somewhere around 320? Perfectly fine. Okay, so we are done with defining the value for this left property. Now let's define something for the padding top. So I would like to see a gap of, let's say, 100 pixels. I think it is going to give us the correct output. So now this text is going to get reflected over here somewhere in the middle of the section we have defined next to this column in which these three images are getting reflected. let's have something for the font size, I think, because the font size of this text, the font size of this text here the photo will be displayed is somewhat bigger as in comparison to the font size of this one, right? So let's define some font size for this text. So I would like to have a font size of, let's make it 30 pixels. I think this is going to give us the correct output as far as I think. Yes, it is perfectly fine. And let me just shift it to 200 pixels because I want to see it getting reflected somewhere in the middle, just below this Geeks for Geeks. That is the reason I am changing this value again and again. This is the correct output. Now if you want to change the color of this text, if you want to see it getting reflected, suppose in white color, the way it is getting reflected over here in white on this original web page. So that's how you can get the required output. So now the text is going to get reflected in white. So this one is looking much beautiful as in comparison to the original one as far as I think. Okay. Now, when I'm bringing my cursor over this text, what is happening? Over this section, what is happening? It is changing to a weight cursor. The cursor is changing to a weighting cursor. So let's define the hover property for this Geeks ID. And I would like the color to change to, let's say, which color should I select? I think current color is a good option. Or just a second, let me see if I can get a better option than this one. How about this dark blue? Let's use this one. And cursor, I would like this cursor to change to this weight symbol. Now when you refresh the stage area and bring your cursor over this, so that's what you will get to see as an output. The color of the text has changed from white to dark blue, and this cursor has also changed, right? Okay, so we are done with defining the required CSS code for this web page. Now let's access this web page on a bigger window. But before that, I would like to save my project with a unique name on my dashboard. So let's save it with tab image gallery. This is how you can save your project. You just have to hit this rename button. Then you can write down some name you want to give to your project. After that, you can hit this save button. Right, let's now copy this link and access the web page on a bigger window. Okay, so here is fine. So this is what we are getting as an output right now. Fine. Now if you'll click on any of these buttons, nothing is going to happen. I want to see this image in an expanded view getting reflected over here. In place of this, here the photo will be reflected. Now how can we get this output? So as you guys very well know, when I was defining the code for this HTML document, so here I made use of this on click event. So when the user will click on any of these buttons or any of these image buttons, this is the function which will be called up. So we need to now define the JavaScript coding for this function, right? Let's do that. So in order to access the console panel where you can define the JavaScript coding and make your web page more responsive, you guys can make use of Control, Shift and J together. Control key, Shift key and J key together. When you'll press all these three keys together, this is what you are going to come across. So this is a console panel where you can define the required JavaScript coding for your web page you have designed. So in order to eliminate all these errors which are currently visible to us in this console panel, you just have to hit this clear console tab, and this is what you're going to come across. So everything is going to go disappear. Let's now define this function named gfg this. Okay, so I'm going to define the required JavaScript code for this function. Why is this giving us an error? Function, then gfg this. Okay. Oh, fine. The error is unexpected token this. Instead of this, we need to pass something else. Let's make use of some variable, like, because we are working on images right now, right? So we can make use of imgs, and then let's have a variable with name expanding or expand img. I think this is a better option. And then to access the component, this component for which we define this id expand, let me show it to you first. Where is that component for which we define? Yeah, so this is the this is the img tag for which the id is expand right now. Okay, and in this component I want to see the expanded view of these images. So in order to access this img tag, what we can do, we guys need to first access this document, this web page document. What is the code for accessing the web page document? You can make use of this keyword document, which is going to provide you the access of the entire web page, which you are able to see just next to this console window. So document dot, now you want to access this element for which the id is expand. So you want to get some element with the help of the id name, right? So for doing that, you can make use of this get element by id property, and in between these parentheses you can define the name of the id. So expand is the name of the id I want to access. So it will now get stored in this variable named expand img. Let's have this variable also with name img text, and for this one also I would like to access an element for which I have defined the id as geeks. Let me first show you what is that element for which the id is geeks. Just a second. So this is the division section, okay, in which this here the photo will be displayed text we have placed, right? For this division section the id is geeks. So let's access this one too. How can we do that? It's very simple. We just have to replace this id with the one we have defined for that division section. Fine, so that's how you can access both the elements. And then let's access this variable expand img we have used over here, and then we can define the source value for this expand img. So I would like to define this thing imgs dot src. So whatever the source is for this imgs, which is going to come from this attribute, okay, so this is going to pull for us the link we have passed over here for this source attribute as a value. Fine, this keyword is going to pull for us this link, and it will first get stored in this variable imgs, and then we can pull up that link with the help of this code imgs.src and make it equal to expand img.src so as to get the image reflected in this particular section. Fine, and then we can place this semicolon, and let's now make use of this expand img again. So I would like to now define the code for the parent element dot style dot display. Fine, and it should get displayed in a block kind of structure. So we are done with defining the required code for this function GFG. Let's now check out whether we are going to get the required output or not. So for that I need to hit one of these images. Let's hit this first one, and I'm able to see it getting reflected over here in the center. But it is not covering the entire width. Why is it so? Why is it happening? Let's check it out. So we need to come over here, and style is equals to width 70%, and if I'll make it 100%, let's see what is going to happen. So first of all, I am copying this whole text, and let's paste it over here, and I'm refreshing this link. So the output, we are getting the required output, but you know the way the image should get reflected in this section, we are not getting that image in that way. Now also it is covering only this much of space. Now why is it so? Just a second, let's check it out. So I'm making some changes in the dimensions I have defined for this section. Okay, so now the dimension is this. I think, no, it is not giving us a correct output. I want to see it covering the entire, this width. Expand style width 100%, and no, it is also not going to give us a correct output. So it is now 400%. No, I don't want to see it, covering this entire portion. 300. How about I think 280 will be fine. Okay, and then we can increase the height too. Let's make it 130%. 130 is quite big. Let's change it to 70. Okay, so now the box is coming like this, and let's fire this over here. So this is what now you will get to see as an output, right? It is perfectly fine. So this is the tab image gallery which we learned to code in this lecture. Fine, so we have made use of this HTML code. Let me show you the entire HTML code. Fine, this is the required HTML code you need to define in this workspace of HTML, and then this is a code which you are required to define in the cascading style sheet document. Once you are done with that, you can make use of this link for accessing the image on a bigger window. like the way it is getting reflected over here, and then you can make use of this simple JavaScript code for getting this beautiful output. All right, so this is it from my side. Hope you guys enjoyed this lecture a lot. Do not forget to like and share this video, please, and make it reach to the maximum students possible. Thank you very much in advance for all your support and all the efforts you are